Welcome, everybody. Happy Thursday. Thank you so much to everybody for being here with us today. We have such an exciting webinar lined up for you today. We are going to get started right at 2 o'clock Eastern time, if not potentially a minute earlier, because we have a lot of exciting content and announcements for you today. Welcome. Two from Chicago, back to back. Thank you for being here with us today. Welcome, everybody. Happy Thursday, my favorite afternoon of the week. So excited to be here with you all again. Welcome. As always, just take a minute, grab your tea, your coffee, your water. I've always got my coffee here with me for our webinars. Settle in, find a quiet spot if you can at your childcare centers. I know that's probably quite hard to find. We have a very exciting webinar lined up for you today. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for being here with us today, taking time out of your very busy days to be here. We very much appreciate it. I love spending every Thursday afternoon with all of you. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thank you so much for sharing where you're coming from. I love to see it. Welcome. We are going to be talking about how to improve the quality of childcare at your center according to research, and I am so excited to dive in. We're also going to be announcing our winner of the ECE of the Year Award, and I am so excited to reveal that to you. Very exciting webinar today. Welcome, everybody. Happy Thursday afternoon. So happy to be here with you all again. If you are just popping in, let us know where you're coming from today. We are going to get started in about 1 minute. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Welcome. As a reminder for everybody who is attending today's live webinar, you will be receiving a certificate of participation for being here with us today. Those certificates will be sent to you by early next week. So as always, if you don't see your certificate today, don't see it tomorrow, do not worry, you will absolutely get it by early next week. Okay. It is 1:59. We are 1 minute away from it being 2 o'clock, but we are going to dive in because we have a jam-packed, very exciting webinar for you all today. So take your time still, grab that water, grab that coffee or tea, close your doors, and we will dive in. We are going to be talking about how to improve the quality of childcare according to research, and I am very excited. First things first, though, today at the end of our webinar, we will be announcing the winner of the ECE of the Year Award. Very exciting. I'm so excited for you to meet them. So please be sure to stay tuned if you can for that exciting update. As well, if you do need any help lesson planning and you haven't heard of our Hi Mama activities database, I highly recommend you check it out. There are hundreds of activities in there. You can browse by domain, by age, by theme. You can save your favorite activities for your classroom, and there are tons more coming. So definitely go ahead and check out our Hi Mama activities, and you can get those sent directly to your inbox as well. And a quick disclaimer before we dive in. The content that we are sharing with you today, we just want to be very clear that it is not personalized legal or financial advice. So the goal today is that you leave with some really great tips, tricks, and strategies and new learnings for your classrooms, for your centers, for your homes. But we do want to make sure if you are looking to make any big changes at your center, that you are consulting the right people, such as a legal or financial advisor. Okay, and we're going to give a quick listen to our land acknowledgement now.
Hi Mama acknowledges that our main headquarters is situated in Toronto, Ontario, on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, and the Haudenosaunee and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. Toronto itself is a word that originates from the Mohawk word Takaranto, meaning the place in the water where the trees are standing. As participants and guests in today's webinar, we are coming together from many different places around the world. We encourage you to learn about and acknowledge the land from which you participate.
And we will now give a listen to our diversity and inclusion statement.
Hi Mama is committed to fostering an inclusive and welcoming environment for our employees, customers, and community. Hi Mama welcomes and celebrates individuals of all backgrounds, orientations, and identities. Our Diversity, Inclusion, and Belonging Committee aims to ensure we provide a safe environment for everyone to thrive while bringing their authentic selves to work. Our mission is to promote an inclusive workspace for all employees through education, discussion, and celebration of our differences. Embracing these differences while coming together with a common purpose is what makes our team extra special.
And a few housekeeping pieces, as always, before we dive in. So this session is being recorded. So if for any reason at all you do have to step away, you will receive the recording and the slides by next week. As well, if you do need to have the closed captions turned on, please be sure to click that CC tab on your Zoom, and also know that we are recording with the CC turned on as well, so it will be in the recording for you. Again, in terms of certificates, for all of you here with us today, during the live webinar, you will be receiving a certificate of participation, and those certificates will be sent out by early next week. So again, do not worry if you do not see it today, maybe not even tomorrow, but we will get them to you absolutely by early next week. And lastly, if you are having any issues at all connecting to Zoom, we certainly hope that does not happen. But if you do, we just want to make sure you're consulting the people who can support you the best by knowing their product the best, which is the Zoom support team, and you can contact them at support.zoom.us. As well, if you have never heard of Hi Mama before, welcome. We're so happy you are here with us today. Let us know in the chat if this is your first webinar you are joining. I'm so excited you found your way to us. We love our Hi Mama Helps webinar community so much. If you have not heard of us, on top of our amazing professional development community with webinars, podcasts, and articles that we put out, we are a childcare management software. So we provide parent communication, photo and video sharing, contactless billing, anything and everything that you need to make your center run as smoothly and efficiently as possible. If you would like to learn more, we would love to show you around and welcome you into the Hi Mama family. Kaya will post a link in the chat that you can access to learn more about Hi Mama. As well, if you do join the Hi Mama family, just know you will get world-class support. I used to be on our support team, and so is my lovely co-host Kaya, so we can speak from firsthand experience that it is a fabulous group of humans who are ready to support you if you do make this change at your center. We have hundreds of activities available for you, as well as podcasts and our webinars and articles that get put out every week. As well, if you didn't know, we are a B certified company. So what this means is that as we actively work with our amazing customers and educators, we are actively making a positive contribution in the early childhood education space. As well, if this is your first time joining and you have never met me before, my name is Maddie. I'm our customer advocacy specialist here at Hi Mama. I'm also one of the early childhood educators here on the team, and of course, host of your Hi Mama Helps webinar series. And then as always, my lovely co-host Kaya is here. Welcome, Kaya. Do you have a fun fact you want to share today?
No fun facts. I'm just so excited to share the amazing news about who won Early Childhood Educator of the Year at the end of the webinar. You are in for a special treat. I'm so excited to introduce our community to them. You're really going to enjoy their story. So stay tuned to the end.
Thanks, Kaya. Please be sure to stay tuned if you can. That is going to be so much fun. And finally, last but absolutely not least, I'm so excited to introduce you to our special guest, Dr. Kara Goodwin. Kara, please pop on. We are so excited to have you here today.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome. Kara, thank you so much for being here with us today. I am going to go ahead and hand it over to you. The stage is yours.
Thank you so much, Maddie, and thank you everybody for being here. I am a child psychologist, and I am a founder of Parenting Translator, which is a nonprofit organization with the goal of taking all the research that's out there and translating it into information that is useful to parents and also to childcare caregivers. I also have a children's book, and I am most importantly a mother to 3 young children. So I am definitely um, having experience with young children like all of you out there on a daily basis. So we can go ahead to the next slide. Let's dive into this research. So first, what I want to share is that the quality of childcare really matters. So there's a lot of research out there showing that higher quality childcare is associated with lots of benefits for children. We see enhanced language development, we see higher IQ, we see improved pre-academic and academic skills. We see advanced social emotional skills, fewer behavioral problems, and, arguably most importantly, happier children who tend to have better relationships with other children. We can go to the next slide. So we also see that these impacts of the quality of childcare really are long-term. So there are studies that have followed children, up until age 21, and we see impacts, at age 15, including higher IQ, improved school performance, fewer behavioral problems. We see better grades and less likely to be placed in special ed at 18. And we see more likely to have attended a 4-year college at 21. So there are huge impacts of high quality childcare. So then that raises the question of what exactly is high quality childcare? So how do we know what is high quality childcare? And research has really looked into this question. And today, what I'm going to be highlighting is 2 studies that I think are two of the best studies on the quality of childcare. The first is the NICHD study, which is the National Institute of Child Health and Human Development, did a very large comprehensive study that looked at over 1,300 children and what are the impacts or what are the factors that are really associated with high quality childcare in these children. And they tried to provide a representative population. So we can go to the first slide. So what they found in this study is some what we call structural factors, which are basically factors that are hard for us to change. So there are things that are associated with the child care center itself. So the first is a child to adult ratio. So a lower child to adult ratio is going to be associated with better developmental outcomes. And I included a chart here from the American Academy of Pediatrics, which shows the ratio that they recommend for different ages. So for example, under 12 months, they would recommend 3 staff members to every 1 child. As you get older, the ratio expands. So up until 9 to 12-year-olds, you see 12 staff members for every 1 child. And I realize that this is difficult based on financial reasons a lot of the time to meet these ratios, but these are kind of the aspirational ratios that we would hope to meet. And also another factor that they found was important is group size. And group size they found is actually independent from the child to staff ratio. So even while maintaining like the ideal child to staff ratio, you want to, oh, sorry, I just had somebody in the chat ask, correct me. So I mean 3 children to every 1 staff member, not 1 child to every 3 staff members. I'm sorry for that confusion. Anyways, going back to group size. So group size, you would want to keep to a relatively smaller group size because group size in itself is associated, a smaller group size is associated with better developmental outcomes. Finally, another factor that they found to be important is caregiver education and training. The American Academy of Pediatrics, for example, recommends that caregivers in early child care have at least some post-high school training in child development or early childhood education. So the caregiver education, so more education a caregiver has, the better child development outcomes you're going to see. Another factor that they found that is really important in childcare quality is something that they called positive caregiving. And I think this is a really exciting finding, because this is actually something that you can change relatively easily with your childcare center. Unlike the caregiver's education, the group size, and the child to staff ratio, which is going to cost a lot to change. This is something that you can change with training of caregivers. So the NICHD, who conducted this study, created a positive caregiving checklist, which I've included. I think it should be included in the show notes. And it's basically a form that you can use to evaluate the extent to which the caregivers in your center are providing positive caregiving. So basically what you would do to score this is to observe a single child and a single caregiver in a situation and record how many often they show any of these behaviors that are listed in the checklist. So I'm going to go through one by one what you're looking for in the checklist. And hopefully that will help you to understand what exactly positive caregiving is. So we can go to the next slide. So the first would be showing a positive attitude. So this would be, is the caregiver generally happy and encouraging? Is he or she helpful and upbeat? Does he or she smile often at the child? And next would be positive physical contact. So this would be anything like hugging the child, patting the child on the back, holding the child's hand, using any sort of physical means to help comfort a child when they're upset. Responsiveness. So this would be listening and responding appropriately to a child. So repeating back the words they say, answering their questions, or commenting on anything that they say. Talking to the child. So interestingly, of all the positive caregiving aspects, the researchers found that this was the most important factor in child development. So how frequently does the caregiver talk to the child? Do they also encourage the child to talk? Do they use praise and encouragement? Do they talk in order to teach the child? Do they tell stories, narrate what they're doing? Do they sing? And all different sorts of verbalizations to a child. That is what's most highly associated with later child development. Another factor would be encouraging development. So they give some specific examples in their questions, like helping the child to stand up and walk, or encouraging tummy time, helping with puzzles and stacking blocks. But I think what this really is knowing where the child is developmentally and helping them to reach the next level. So looking at caregivers who really understand development and how to get to the next point. Improving behavior. So this can be reducing challenging behavior, but also improving social skills. So you can look at specifically, does the teacher encourage the child to smile and laugh? Does the teacher, help the child to learn how to take turns and share? Does the teacher help to give examples of appropriate behavior to children? Reading. So how often does the caregiver read books or tell stories to the child? Does the caregiver let the child interact with the book? So are they letting the child touch the book and turn the pages? Does the caregiver point to pictures and words on the page to help the child be more involved in reading the story? Positive versus negative interactions. So this really means does the caregiver use more positive attention to reward appropriate behavior versus negative attention to correct negative behavior? So next, I'm going to be talking about a study that some of you have seen in the news recently. I think it's been a really hot topic. And this study is a good example of what is not high quality childcare. So we can flip to the next slide. So these are some of the headlines that were out there. And, as a parent or as a childcare educator, these headlines are pretty scary. And I think have raised a lot of concerns for parents and childcare providers. So basically what this study was it was a study in Tennessee looking at a universal pre-K program. So this was more children like 4 to 5 years old, the year before kindergarten. And they took lower income families and they randomly assigned children to either attend their preschool program or to not attend the preschool program. And then they looked at outcomes in the children in kindergarten, in third grade, and in sixth grade. And what was really interesting is they found in kindergarten that the children in this free preschool program showed increased kindergarten readiness. So they, had more understanding of letters and numbers. And that was what the researchers expected. But what was really unexpected was when they looked at these children in third and then more recently in sixth grade, what they found was the children who attended the preschool program showed lower scores than the children who did not. And they also showed more behavioral issues. They're more likely to get in trouble in school. They had lower attendance in school. So this study really raised a lot of questions about universal pre-K and, why would children who attended a pre-K program have more negative outcomes? So it was very alarming. So we can flip to the next slide. What the takeaway from this study is, I think, is not that preschool hurt, as some of these headlines suggested, preschool might hurt kids or have a negative impact. What this study suggested is that quality is what really matters. So I think ideally what we can take from this study is basically what not to do in an early child care situation if we want our children to have better outcomes. So I'm going to talk about some takeaways from this study to how to avoid an outcome such as what was found in the study. So the first takeaway, I think, is that this particular preschool program in Tennessee really focused on teaching concrete academic skills, such as literacy skills, so teaching the alphabet. And this is one potential reason why the children were showing enhanced kindergarten readiness, but lower scores in third and sixth grade. So what could be happening here is that the children are learning more concrete academic skills, but not learning these abstract skills like listening and problem solving, which may not have an immediate impact, but are more likely to have an impact on future success. In particular, encouraging play in early childhood has been linked to better language skills and self-regulation in the long run. So something that this study suggests is that rather than teaching these concrete literacy skills, we should be focused on the more abstract skills and in particular, learning these skills through play. Something else I took from this study is that they tended to use more whole group instruction rather than choice time or child-led activities. So for example, they used whole group instruction 20 to 25% of the day, whereas they used child-led activities less than 15% of the day. So the children were spending a lot of time as a full class getting in direct instruction from the teacher. But research really shows that when children are involved in the activity, they show better reading comprehension, better vocabulary, and better math skills. So something else to take from this study is that in early childhood, that teaching should really be happening as child-led activities or choice time. Negative versus positive attention. So I touched on this a little bit with the NICHD study. The idea here is that in this study, because it was teachers with relatively large preschool classes, that the teachers may have been using negative attention to correct behavior over using positive attention to reward appropriate behavior. So an example of this would be, instead of yelling, no hitting when a child hits another child, to reward the child with positive attention when you see them using gentle hands with another child. Say, I like how you're playing nicely together, versus just coming in when you see aggression and saying no hitting, making sure you're rewarding the child with positive attention when they're behaving appropriately. And research shows that using positive attention in this way is more likely to help children to develop self-regulation versus using negative attention to correct them, because then they're relying on external control for determining their behavior versus internal control. Another thing that the researchers found in this study is that time spent listening to students is really important. So rather than teachers being in the role of just giving the children information, it's important for teachers to also spend time listening to students and hearing, having the education be more of an interaction than simply the teacher speaking to students. And research shows that time spent listening to student improves learning of math, of letters, of sight words. And research also shows when children speak more frequently in class, they show stronger self-regulation and a greater vocabulary. Another issue with this study is that they might not have provided enough opportunities for movement. So the children in this study had very little outdoor play or gym time. So it was only 3 to 4% of the day, which, as all of us know, for young children is unlikely to be enough to really help get their energy out and to give them time for gross motor development. Finally, what this study found was that a large part of the day for these children was spent in transition time. So transition time could include lining up to use the bathroom, waiting to go to the cafeteria to have lunch. And a big reason that they spent so much time in transition was that these preschools were housed in public schools, which were not designed for preschool children. So there was a lot of time of moving between different sorts of locations. And in an ideal world, you have a preschool space that's ideal for little children, where there's plenty of opportunities to use the bathroom. They have an opportunity to wash hands and have lunch in the classroom. There's appropriate playground equipment or gym equipment in the room. But that was a limitation of this study, was it wasn't specifically designed for young children. So they ended up spending a lot of time in transition. Having so much transition time is concerning, because transition time not only reduces the time that children are actually learning and interacting with each other, but it's also associated with increased negative behaviors. And any of us who have been around young children know how difficult transitioning is. And so it makes sense that if so much of the day is spent in transition, there's going to be increased negative behaviors, which then is more likely to increase caregivers' tendency to use negative attention over positive attention for appropriate behavior. Something to keep in mind is if you are in a situation where you do have a lot of transition time because you don't have the luxury of having a space specifically designed for young children. Something that caregivers can do is to really work on preparing children for transitions and making them happen as smoothly as possible. And it's also possible to incorporate learning into transitions. So, for example, if you're lining up to use the bathroom, children could take turns, counting how many people in line, or singing songs together. There's different things that you could do to make this time, especially if it ends up being 25% of the day, not a waste or a chance for children who are bored to show negative behavior. So that is all I have for today. I would love to answer any questions anybody has about either of these studies I've presented on.
Hi, Kara, that was fabulous. I'm so glad you brought that study up, because that is something that as a team here at Hi Mama, we were looking through as well. And I found, when I saw that headline, like my heart dropped. I was like, what is this possibly about? So I really appreciate you diving into that.
Of course.
And okay, so Kara, we will give you about 1 minute or so here. Just grab some water, take a breath, because that was a lot of information you just shared with us. What we are going to do is really quickly launch our question of the day poll out to our audience. As always, we always want to hear from you and hear about who has joined us on the webinar today. So I have just launched that poll. It might take a second to show up on your screen, but we are quite curious. How do you currently track children's learning and development at your center, and what your center or maybe just your specific classrooms do to keep track of all of that documentation and development that is happening on a regular basis? And of course, if you are interested in learning about how we can support you in creating that quality documentation for your center, we are happy to show you around and introduce you to how Hi Mama can support you in that area. If you're spending a long time on paper documentation and on writing out all of your development outcomes, something that's really great in Hi Mama as well is your specific state and provincial early learning frameworks are built into the program for you. So you can just click the development that is happening and attach it to the child's learning. So super helpful. Kai will post a link in the chat as well on how you can get in contact with us at Hi Mama to learn a little bit more about that. Okay. And now I'm super glad we have time for a Q&A, Kara, because we have a lot of questions that came in. So I'm super excited to dive into this with you. Are you ready to dive back in?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, amazing. So the first question that I have here is, what role do you think families and parents can play in helping to increase the quality of childcare centers?
So families and parents specifically?
Yes.
I think what families and parents can do is to make sure they're asking the right questions of their childcare provider, asking specifically about some of the items on the positive caregiving checklist. So what is are the caregivers showing positive attitudes? How often are they talking to children? How often are they reading with children? And to also offer, rather than being in a critical position with their child's childcare provider, rather asking, is there anything I can do to help? Like whether it's providing more books to the child care center, or, helping to, think of ways to make the schedule easier on different child care providers. So, asking these questions, but also asking if there's anything that you can do as a parent or family to help improve the quality.
Yeah, absolutely. And is the positive caregiving checklist a resource that centers can print off? Like, is that something that they can find to give to parents or give to their educators?
Yes, I believe the PDF is in the show notes, and it's it's a PDF from the NICHD, and it should be in the appendix of that, of Appendix C, I believe, is the positive caregiving checklist, and you can print that off and score. You can have a score for the positive caregiver, or positive caregiving that a particular caregiver does over, a time period. And then you can even use that to help improve how your caregivers are doing. So, use that to measure their performance and, maybe offer incentives or if they can improve their performance over time. I think that there's a lot of uses for it.
Absolutely. And that sounds like a really great resource that SAD directors, supervisors can bring into, like you were saying, performance reviews or interviews, however you choose to call it at your center, to actually show the educator some like hands-on material on how they're doing and where they can improve, so they can actually kind of see what's happening.
Yeah.
I believe Kaya posted a link to that in the chat. If you missed it, because I know the chat moves really quickly, we will send, oh, there it is again. Thank you, Kaya. We will send it out in the show notes. That sounds like an absolutely fabulous resource to print off, whether you're a director, educator, a parent, to give to your educators, give to your parents. Sounds amazing. Okay, Kara, we will dive into the next question. One question here is, what would you say are probably the top effects or impacts of poor quality care on a child and on their development?
Yeah, so I think, what research has shown is poor quality care. What you're really seeing, we are seeing lower academic scores, but in particular, we see a lot of impacts in terms of social emotional development. So, children in lower quality childcare tend to show, more aggression, more behavioral issues later in elementary school. Something else we see is burnout. So, for example, if there's childcare like the one in this Tennessee study, you tend to see that children, they're getting a lot of concrete academic skills, at a period that maybe developmentally they're too young for this. You're more likely to see that they may burn out in later grades. So that could be contributing to lower academic scores in later grades, even though they're showing increased kindergarten readiness.
Okay. And when you say burnout in later grades, are you meaning like they give up easier on challenges and are less resilient in facing challenges and things like that?
So there isn't research specifically looking at persistence, although I think there should be, but more so that it's more this effect where you see better performance in kindergarten that tends to fade over time. So that research has interpreted that as burnout.
Okay, gotcha. And have you noticed or know any research that has done kind of a compare and contrast study of children who go into care and children who don't go into care at all? They do more at-home learning depending on the family's finances, right? Since childcare can be not something that all families can reach for their children. Do you know kind of the main effects that we might notice in children there, and a child or sibling specifically is this question that came in, of one who goes into care and one who does not?
Yeah, so we see very few long-term impacts of children who are in childcare and children who are not. This is across lots of children. So that doesn't necessarily mean that, going into childcare or not going into childcare is what is best for your particular child. But across the board, we see that, whether a child is at home with a parent or a relative, or whether they are in early child care, we don't see any long-term differences. There are some minor difference in terms of, sometimes children in early child care are shown to do better initially in school, and those impacts tend to fade over time. But sometimes we do see that children who are in early child care do better in school initially. But the real important question is, what is the quality of the child care? Because that, it will make or break the impact on the child. And the other question is, what will they be doing otherwise? So if a child who's not in childcare is then with a parent that's interacting with them frequently and, teaching them through play, that's a wonderful other option. But if the child is with a caregiver who has to work at the same time and they're being put in front of the TV all day, that's not necessarily a more positive outcome. So it really, the question is, what is the quality of the childcare and what would they be doing if not in childcare?
Right. That makes a lot of sense. Sounds like there's just a lot of factors at play to really be able to understand that comparison. Okay, absolutely. And Kara, what are your thoughts on play-based education in childcare versus more structured academic worksheet style in early learning?
Yeah, so what the research really shows is that play-based, you tend to see the most positive long-term impacts, particularly on social emotional skills, which I think what we're learning is that social emotional skills are really key. So I typically recommend a play-based early childcare over a more academically focused childcare based on the research showing all of the benefits of play-based childcare. Children learn best through play, and it really is. It's the most natural way for children to learn these skills, and you can still incorporate early literacy, early math, and science, different sorts of the traditional academic skills into play. I think what makes play-based learning so difficult though in real life is that it's hard to measure outcome. It's harder, to measure outcomes of play-based versus, if you're teaching specific academic skills, it's very easy to measure how children are progressing on those skills. Something else is that it takes a very qualified caregiver to be able to kind of seamlessly incorporate these skills into play versus how easy it is to hand out a worksheet to practice for a child to practice their letters. So play-based education, research really finds that that is what's most effective, but it's important to mention that in real life it is really hard to implement, and it takes a lot of funding and very skilled caregivers to be able to implement it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it sounds like we just keep coming back to that term of quality, right? So to effectively do play-based learning, it has to be done with an educator who's properly trained in how to bring play-based learning into the classroom and set up the environment for quality play-based learning as well. And I know another big struggle with a lot of educators and directors is not only bringing that into the classroom and they understand the impacts of using play-based learning, but communicating those impacts to parents and family members who don't have as deep of an understanding on what play-based learning is. I spoke with a director just the other day who was telling me that it is their philosophy at their center. They know how important it is for the children they care for, but using the language of play-based learning seems to have triggered the idea of them as babysitters, which of course is absolutely not what early childhood educators are. So I think there's also that step of communicating that to families, which can be challenging.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And
I'm curious.
As a parent, even as a parent myself, knowing all the benefits of play-based learning, there's nothing more rewarding than coming home and I see like some concrete skill that my child has learned, like writing their name. It's exciting, and I get why parents cling on to that because it is something that is, it's amazing to see some sort of like concrete skill develop versus, if they're learning a skill like problem solving, you're not going to have some sort of aha moment where you see, oh my gosh, they can do it. It's a lot more subtle of a difference. So it's very hard for parents and caregivers, I think, to not have that, concrete achievement step.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is why I think it's important for educators to be able to share that learning and development and show exactly why this play-based activity is having this impact and this outcome as well. I'm quite curious to know for our guests on here today, go ahead and write in the chat and let us know if you use play-based learning at your center. Let us know if this is something you also struggle with to communicate to your families about how important play-based learning is. I'd be quite curious to see how that works for all of you on here. Okay, so we have two more questions left for you. And this next one is, what are your thoughts on multi-age groups and the benefits of, or lack of benefits for older children and younger children working together in a classroom?
Great question. So there's a lot of interesting research on that. And research really finds that there are pros and cons to including different ages in a group. So some of the pros are that the younger children should kind of rise to the occasion, and they're modeling after the older children. And the older children also get an opportunity to show leadership skills and helping behavior. So there are some pros to older children as well. However, some of the research has shown that the older children are in some situations more likely to act like the younger children and kind of go down to their level. But further research has found that what really helps to prevent any negative outcomes of this mixed age group is a really skilled teacher. So kind of like I mentioned with play-based learning, it takes a really skilled teacher to kind of know how to meet, the 4-year-olds where they're at, and the 3-year-olds where they're at, and the 2-year-olds where they're at, versus, providing one lesson to the whole class, which is, obviously so much easier. So research, this summary is research finds pros and cons, but it really takes a skilled teacher to be able to have multi-ages together.
Right. So just like with the play-based learning, lots of benefits to it, but it has to be done properly and with someone who knows how to kind of scaffold the classroom based on who they're working with and the learning needs and ages in there.
Yes.
Okay. Amazing. Our last question for you is, I think quite a few people ask this, but do you have any advice on how to make transitions a positive experience for young children? Considering they happen quite a few times during the day, if you have any tips there.
Yes. So, transitions are very hard for young children. I mean, they're hard for all of us, but they're particularly hard for young children. So the most important thing you can do is prep them as much as possible. So we want to give them, warnings that transitions are coming up, either through, a verbal warning. You can use a visual timer, like the time timer, which helps children to see how much time they have left before a transition. And any sort of warning system will make it a lot easier. Another thing is to make transitions really a routine. So if you follow the same routine every day, and they know, after lunch, they're going to make this transition every day, it's going to be a lot easier than a transition that is sprung on them at the last minute. So following routines can really help. And something else that can help is a routine for the transition, like a particular song that you sing, like, a lot of us know the cleanup song, for example. So, having a song or something fun that kind of helps the child get to the transition. It could also be something like, okay, we're going to go line up for lunch now. Do you want to hop like a bunny to the line, or do you want to fly like a bird? Trying to incorporate fun into their transition, because you have to realize for a child, they don't have any motivation to leave, something they're having fun doing to go line up for lunch. Like, you got to think about their own motivation and how to make it more interesting and fun for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really like that last point as well, because when you say, how do you want to go over to the lineup, you're also giving them that ownership and agency over it, which is always key in getting a child to follow through with that.
Exactly.
Amazing. And I saw quite a few people writing in the chat as well that they bring music in as well to support with their transitions. For, again, everybody on here, if you haven't told us in the chat yet, go ahead and share some tips that you have for supporting transitions in your classroom, any problem solving tips you have. We have a fabulous group of experts on here who spend every day with young children. So would love to hear from you as well, any tips you have on supporting transitions in your centers. Okay, well, Kira, thank you so much for being here with us today. That was fabulous. I know we all learned so much from you, and I know it's hard to keep an eye on the chat, but Everyone was raving about your presentation with us today. Everyone, Dr. Kara Goodwin, thank you so much for being here with us. We will send out a show notes email with links to resources that Dr. Kara Goodwin has available so you can continue to learn more. We are about to hand it over to Kaya to introduce our ECE of the year. Kara, feel free to pop off and get back on with your day, or feel free to stay on and meet our ECE of the year. But thank you so much for being here with us today. It was a pleasure.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye, thank you.
Okay, I am going to welcome Kaya back on, who is going to take the stage to finally reveal our ECE of the year. Kaya, it's all yours. I'm so excited.
Thank you so much, Maddie. What a great presentation. It's always great to have Kara with us. That's her third webinar with us, and we were sharing out her podcast as well. So huge shout out to Kara for joining us today. I know our audience enjoyed her. Switching gears into the Early Childhood Educator of the Year Award. I am so excited to announce our winner. I was up last night late, as you can tell. I'm on my third cup of coffee today. I was tallying all the votes. There were nearly 10,000 votes. It's literally been our biggest Early Childhood Educator of the Year award ever. 10,000 votes. It was bonkers, to say the least. So I am so excited to announce our 2021 Early Childhood Educator of the Year award to, drumroll, Sean D. Bird. He is from Stimulating Young Minds Imagination Academy in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Congratulations, Sean. Sean unfortunately wasn't able to make it here live during the webinar, but I did meet up with him earlier this morning. Sean, if you are somehow in the chat right now, please say a quick hello. If anyone from Sean's community is here, say a quick hello. And thank you so much to Sean's community for showing your amazing support and getting those votes for Sean. And a huge thank you to all of our amazing nominators and nominees who took time out of their day to nominate someone in the early childhood education field. Thank you all so much for your hard work and dedication, to all the other nominees, and of course to Sean as well. Congratulations. We do have a small clip that we're going to play in our next slide, so I will let that take over.
We received hundreds of outstanding nominations for our 2021 Early Childhood Educator of the Year Award. Our nominees received so much love from their communities and nearly 10,000 votes across the board. After tallying up all the votes last night, we are pleased to announce our 2021 Early Childhood Educator of the Year Award to Sean Bird from Stimulating Young Minds Imagination Academy in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Sean, join us on camera.
Hello.
Hello, thank you so much for joining us, Sean, and a huge congratulations to you for winning our 2021 Early Childhood Educator of the Year Award.
Thank you. I truly appreciate this opportunity.
We're so excited for you. Sean, thank you so much for your contributions to our early childhood community. We do have a few questions to ask you today just to learn a little bit more about you. And as you know, we're going to be doing a podcast recording with you and our CEO of Hi Mama, Ron Spernberg, later. But let's jump into it. Let's learn a little bit more about you. Sean,
Yes.
can you tell us about the work that you do in the early childhood field? How did you get into it?
My background is software sales and marketing. I worked on Wall Street for several years, coaching the community, and everyone told me I had a gift with scholars. I call them kids scholars. You should be a teacher. You should be a teacher. You should be educated. Love my job. Love what I was doing, traveling the world. One day I sat at my desk and I said, you know what? I'm going to resign today. And I took a leap of faith, started a nonprofit, and really got into to early childhood. I had a home daycare in the past, but I wanted to have a center. And in doing so, my goal was, and I stated this earlier, we went from STEM to STEAM. Now I say STREAM, because science, technology, robotics, engineering, arts, and math. And what I wanted to do, because again, technology was my background, I wanted to introduce young scholars to these disciplines at an early age. And just being able to tap into their youthfulness and their mindset and this challenge for greatness. And then So I fell in love with it. Every day I wake up with a major passion and just to see the scholars.
I love it. Love it. What a change from Wall Street and technology into the field of childcare. That is an amazing way to transition and really use your passion, your skills. Sean, what sparks your passion and your drive to work with children and help your community?
Well, it's twofold. I was able to embrace technology at at an early age. Right out of college, I was selling securities for Wall Street. So, when you're trading stocks, there's so many levels of security. So, different technology than what it is now. Our youth wake up every day with smartphones and playing with things. Why just be a consumer and not be a individual who can monetize your opportunities? So I think if you're teaching scholars technology, engineering, mathematics, as well as embracing their mindset, what they like, and show them how to code with our Legos at an early age and understanding how to put things together. When they're 14, 15, and 16, it's come second nature. And now you're not talking about a job, you're talking about a career. So a lot of people like jobs. We all need money, but if you can show a scholar this could be a career for you, you can monetize it, like doing it. It's easier to teach a 2-year-old how to swim than a 16-year-old, because by that time they'll have fear and set. So my thing is, we give it to them now, then run with it later.
I love it. I love it. Just using their strengths and their interests and their passions to make them the best child that they can be and grow up to. Yeah, love it. Sean, before we wrap up things here, we have one more question for you. What do you want to tell educators in the field right now? We know there's so much going on with this pandemic, with what's going on in the world. There's so much happening. And we know a lot of educators are really struggling with burnout, lack of support, maybe just having a hard time in general. What would you tell them right now if you could say a message to all educators in the world?
Life is a challenge right now, everything that's going on. Let's be truthful about it. But I have to remind myself, I can use myself as a barometer. When it gets tight, you get tired, a little frustrated. Sometimes you feel like you're on an island by yourself. You have to have your woosah moment, and you also have to check yourself, like, why am I doing this? What is my end goal? And that kind of brings me back in to really focus on the scholars and not the adults, if you know what I mean. The adults could drive you crazy. The scholars will make you come back to your reality and why you're doing this. And you need to take a woosah moment. Just tell your staff, I need to take a break. Take your 10, 15 minutes, gather your thoughts, take a deep breath, and come back. I think you're energized, you're more focused. And it's life, and it don't feel bad when you have those moments. It's just life throws us challenges, and life throws us lemons, and we have to sometimes sit back and make homemade lemonade and make it work for ourselves.
Amazing. Yes. Don't be afraid to take those breaks. That's such amazing advice, especially right now. I absolutely love that. Sean, thank you so much for your time with us today. We really look forward to learning more about you on our preschool podcast here in the next few weeks and working with you and your amazing community even further. And a huge, huge thank you to all of our nominators who took time out of their day, including your nominator, Chelsea, who submitted a nomination, and all of the other nominees as well, who continually contribute to the field of early childhood. Thank you. Folks, stay tuned for an exciting preschool podcast episode with Sean. Make sure you subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Stitcher to be the first to hear his episode. And make sure you check out the most recent blog post about Sean. You can read exactly what his nominator had to say about him. Sean, from all of us at Hi Mama, thank you so much for joining us today and for all of your hard work and your contributions to the field of early childhood. And thank you and congratulations again on your award.
Thank you, and I appreciate Hi Mama for this great opportunity.
Thank you.
I have tears in my eyes. That's so amazing. That was just a very short snippet from my interview with him this morning. There's going to be so much more content coming out. We have a full preschool podcast episode. We have a blog being released in about 5 minutes. So we'll be sure to include that in the show notes. If you want to hear the podcast episode first, make sure you sign up for our webinar for our newsletter, and it will be sent directly to your email inbox when it is released in the next few weeks. And if you go to the next slide, I'll tell you exactly what Sean won this year.
We received hundreds of
So as a winner for Hi Mama's 2021 Early Childhood Educator of the Year Award, Sean is going to be being sent an iPad Pro and pens for all of his childcare needs and scheduling needs. He's going to be interviewed on the Preschool Podcast. He is going to be featured on Hi Mama's blog. He, of course, gets bragging rights with all of this, so he's going to be sent a digital badge.
Kaya, we cannot seem to hear you anymore, unfortunately. I will let Kaya, I know she's having some issues with her headphones today, so I will just wrap up that last point that Sean will also be getting an amazing Hi Mama swag pack, which are always super fun to get. Quite unfortunate that Sean could not be here with us live during the webinar today, but Sean, I want to send you a massive congratulations. Thank you so much for all of the work you do and for being such an amazing and valuable member of the early learning community. I know the families and children in your care are quite lucky to have you in their lives. So big thank you to Sean and to all the early childhood educators we have here today. Thank you all for everything that you do. Before we wrap up, can't believe we got through it all in our hour. I'm proud of all of us on here. We had so much content to get through today. What's next? You will receive your show notes and recording. You'll get a recording of today's webinar and the slides, as well as your certificate by early next week. So again, do not worry if you don't see it today or tomorrow. We will be sure to get it to you early next week. And then next Thursday, same time, 2 p.m. Eastern time, we will be here, and I hope all of you can be as well. We are talking about the key to retaining staff at your childcare center. Very, very important topic. I know staff hiring and retention is a very big challenge for a lot of childcare owners and directors right now, and there's quite a big staffing crisis going on. So please join us next Thursday, March 10th at 2 p.m. Eastern time, where we will be talking with Jane Ann Benson, who is an educator and founder of Early Childhood Ally, all about the key to retaining staff at your childcare center. You do not want to miss that one. Thank you, all of you, for spending your time with us today, taking time out of your very busy days to be here. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day. Have a wonderful week, and I hope to see you all here again next week. Take care, everybody.